Equanimity. Yeah. You're working on equanimity this month a little bit with our colleagues we know. And equanimity is one of those elusive ones. It's a slippery, it's a little bit slippery because it's it can mask as other things. We can imagine we're equanimous when it's really mixed with a lot of other mind and heart states. In particular, it can be mixed a lot of the time with our usual wiring, our usual tendency, deeply wired tendency, is to quickly make an assessment in a moment of experience and make a very rapid determination. Most of this is subconscious, really, about whether we like it, we want to move toward it, we want more of it, or we want to turn away from it. And with a slight element of aversion, and don't want it, would like, if it's here, I'd like it to go away, please go away. Or if it's neither of those two things, if it's not interesting enough to want to lean toward it, or aversive enough to move away from it, there's a spacing out around that. We just kind of space it out, Yeah. It goes, it's really deep evolutionary wiring, it's either food or something that might eat us, or just not of interest, and pretty much everything in the animal kingdom is wired along those lines, moving toward pleasure, moving away from stuff that we think is not pleasurable, and spacing out everything else. And that happens. It's happening in every moment, actually. It's on a gross level and on a subtle level. It's happening. And equanimity is not any of those things. It's not any of those three tendencies that we're run through and through with those three tendencies. They're a part of our operating manual as how we negotiate the world in a stream of ongoing stimuli. It's not any of those. It's not any of those. In fact, a lot of equanimity, understanding it, is what it isn't. It's what it isn't. I'll say what it is, but it's also what it isn't. It isn't indifference, which is the kind of the nearest enemy to equanimity. You go, okay, it doesn't matter to me. Indifference is not, it doesn't matter, but sometimes we think, oh yeah, I'm not reacting, I don't really care, so that must be equanimity. No, that's not really caring. That's indifference. It's not wanting something more, and it's not wanting to push something away. It's not bargaining. It's not being with something with a bargaining mentality. Okay, I'm going to kind of be with this, but I hope it goes away soon. Right? That space? Okay, I know you're here. Okay, I'm kind of welcoming you, but I really hope you'll go away soon. Right? That's bargaining. That's not quite equanimity. That's not quite it either. Right? It's not multitasking. Multitasking is a way to not be with something, to not be with one thing. Sometimes I'm kind of with this thing, but I'm going to be planning dinner. I'm having some kind of fantasy about something because I really don't want to be with this thing, but I have to do this thing. I have to do this thing. So, okay, I'm kind of equanimous with, no, I'm not. That's not quite it. Equanimity is it's a little bit more subtle. It's obviously you have to be mindful to be equanimous. With all of these things, mindfulness has to be there. We have to be present, and then we have to notice. I'm going to talk in a moment in terms of what it means to kind of baby steps around equanimity, how we can begin to notice what it is and what it isn't. But there was a study that they did a long time ago, back in the 60s, to see how different meditators and control subjects would respond to the sound of a long bell rung intermittently, really loudly in the room. And this is what they discovered. This is what they discovered. First of all, somebody who didn't meditate at all, the first time the bell was rung, they were shocked. You know, it was really startling, and the startled would show up in all different kinds of ways, in brain waves, and you know, the whole. They were just startled, and then the next time it would ring, they would startle, but a little bit less, and the next time they would startle, but a little bit less, and the next time they would startle, but a little bit less, and there was a kind of a blocking, a kind of a preparatory. I know this is coming. I'm going to prepare myself to not react when the bell rings as much. I'm going to kind of prepare myself, okay? And eventually they reacted less and less to the sound of the bell, and were able to just focus on something else. Now, somebody with deep concentration, they did this with people who had really deep concentration. You'll love this one. Somebody with really deep concentration, now this is about really long-term meditator, right? But when the bell rang, there was no sense that the sound was hardly even registering. Was hardly even registering the sound, hardly a reaction. And then a Vipassana meditator, that would be the kind of mindfulness meditator, right? That would be all of us. Yeah. This is what it was like when the bell rang. It was the exact same response every time. It was heard freshly, and it was a response, but it was also very little tail. Here's the bell, I hear the bell, and there's no more kind of, it's just, here's the bell, no more bell, next. What's next? That bell's already in the rearview mirror, in a way, or the response to it. Next time, same time. That's called hearing things freshly. You know, we talk about seeing things freshly, hearing things freshly, you know, being freshly. It's not responding with aversion. It's not responding with more wanting of whatever it is. You know? And it's not responding with indifference. Huh? But it is fully responding to the experience in an engaged and connected way, but without any of those bits, without any of those three. In the simplest way, I do this every day in different ways. It's more like, is it practicing equanimity? It's hard to practice equanimity, but here's how it is for me. I'll give you 3 examples. One of them, and there are things that happen every day. It's helpful to have something, if you want to do this, that you're doing every day. Well, the one thing is that you don't like very much. You know, it's just not naturally a wonderful thing to be doing, right? But it's something that has to be done. It could be taking out the trash, which I do, but I'm not going to give that example today. I'm going to give you the cat box example, cleaning the cat box. Now, very few people I've met are thrilled about cleaning a cat box. There's usually a mixture of the dutiful thing, right? Got to do this thing, usually with a slight element of aversion, right? There are usually some smells connected with that are not the most pleasant smells, right? Sometimes it's a little worse than that. You know, it can be a little messier than that. Sometimes there's a little peeing outside the box, et cetera, et cetera. So you don't know exactly what it's going to be. So a natural tendency in an activity like that is to just do it without being particularly mindful. I mean, mindful enough. This isn't really mindful enough. So I'm actually putting the stuff in the bag. You know what I mean? Just like we're mindful enough when we're walking that we don't walk into doors. That's not really mindful. That's just basic awareness. Often there's just basic awareness and then wanting to think about something else while I'm doing it. Right? That's not equanimity. Oh, but I'm not reacting too much. There's not too much. It's still not equanimity. Equanimity is doing the thing fully in a kind of balanced, engaged way, even slightly interested. It's a little kind of interested in pretty much everything, a wider range of things. It's widening the range of what we tend to connect with, without so much aversion, without clinging. There's not much to cling to when you're cleaning a cat box. Not clinging, and not indifference either. That's the thing, so it's a little, it's subtle, but it's an opportunity for me to practice that every day. I do that. We do it with brushing my teeth, which is more in the neutral space, right? We do that every day, right? I hope you do. Only brush the ones you want to keep. That's what my dentist says. Yeah. So we do that every day, right? And but who pays attention really? Well, who pays full, balanced, engaged attention? I mean, I'm not talking about loving it, I'm just talking about being really present to it. Now, I practice just really being present to brushing my teeth without aversion, without wanting to get through it onto the next thing. There's also sometimes that, okay, I gotta get through this to the next thing. How much of our life is that? No, I'm brushing my teeth now. I'm brushing my teeth. I'm not clinging to it. Sometimes it's enjoyable, actually, but I'm not clinging to it. I'm not averse to it. I'm not hoping I'm through with it. Just staying connected with it in a mindful, but a bit more equanimous way, I would say. Now, recently we had a big change here. Next door, and we lived with this for years, so you can imagine with this, these neighbors are gone. I'm not sad to see them leave. I'm going to be honest with you. But they trained dog. There was a dog sitting thing. Great. I love animals. Believe me. Okay, but you got 20 to 30 dogs. 20 to 30 dogs. Stay with me. Every morning from 7 in the morning to 11 at night. Okay? I mean, you might say, oh, how endearing. For how long is it going to sound endearing to you, right? So, but it was a great practice for us because that's what we got. That's what's next door. That's what's next door. And without an office now, also, as we let go of our office a while ago, we're doing a lot of work from here. We're doing a lot of work from here. And it's like, okay, how do I relate to this? So I'd wake up in the morning. This is what would happen. The first thing would be a not mindful moment. I can't believe those dogs are barking already at 7 a.m. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? Now, as soon as I would see that, of course, I'd go, oh, hey, buddy, whoa, just dogs. He does it. So then I would just do this moment, literally, sometimes even before I would get out of bed, just like, let's just change that up right now. There's the possibility of changing our relationship to experience. It's not going away. They're not going away. That's off the table. That's off the table. They're not going away. Now, I could try to, again, just not listen to them. But there's a way of, let me just listen to them in a way where there's not aversion, where there's not clinging, there's not clinging. Where there's not aversion, there's not clinging, and there's not indifference. That means I also have to check to see if the breath is soft. Because oftentimes, okay, there's not clinging. Then how come the body is like this? Underneath that. So it's really got to be, no, that's not it either. That's not it either. How to find, it's kind of a little dance, that equanimity dance, to see what it isn't, to see, oh yeah, one of these other things is going on. One of those things that's always going on. I want it, I don't want it, or I'm just spacing out to it. It's and you can do that if you're doing something like brushing your teeth for a couple minutes. You'll see all three of those things go on. You'll see yourself want to multitask and not be mindful at all because it's not interesting enough. You'll see yourself wanting to be done with it. You'll see yourself be bored with it. Equanimity is not boredom either. It can start to fade into boredom. It's not that. It's actually just being engaged, not in an overly exuberant way either, but there's just room for it. And we can see it in our meditation practice as well. Of course, when we're sitting, it comes up all the time, something comes up, the tendency to, please go away. Please stay around. Please stay around. Oh, I like that feeling. There's that too, right? And then there's a lot that we call it casual attention. Casual attention is not indifference either. We're in casual attention a lot, So it's kind of a bit more subtle, but it's also one of those things gradually, we want to expand our range of equanimity, of things that we're to more of our life as it's going by, because there's a lot of duty, a lot of things that need to be done that don't get our full and more balanced, engaged, equanimous attention, yeah. And so bringing that to one activity at a time. I started out with my brushing my teeth. That's something I'm doing 3 times a day. Let me just start there. Let me start there. Yeah. And of course in meditation practice too. And we'll move into that space now. I'm long-winded this morning. Woo. Got carried away. All right.